Okay. So hello everybody. And today I'm here with wonderful man Rob, who've been working with me for about a year now, and has also done the work with my mentor Gary's course, the self-mastery course. And we're just gonna share I'm gonna ask Rob some questions about his journey and have him reflect on it, share about it. And really, I told Rob before the call that the mission is that one is to show the value of doing this process and how it can significantly improve your state of well-being. And that's the most valuable thing that we're going to get out of this call and video. And the second is for Rob to enjoy sharing his journey and reflecting on it is always an enjoyable thing. Um, so Rob, before I ask you some questions, anything you want to share about yourself?
Let's see about myself. I I am. I live in the United States. I live in Virginia, and I've got 3 kids, and I'm living a life that I'm enjoying a lot more than I did. It's been a really good journey for me. But I've, had a lot of struggles all through life that started, in childhood and other things that complicated it as we go. And so I'm almost 60, and I've figured I might as well start dealing with some of these things that I've been struggling with in a better way than I had a lot of years prior. So.
Thanks for that. And so you're jumping us right off then to me asking you then before you started and before you were working with me, you started with the self-mastery course. The time even before you started the self-mastery course, what were you struggling with? What were these challenges and struggles you were going with for?
It's certainly anxiety. Yeah, I remember having my first panic attack when I was 16, sitting in a classroom. And that really started a life of anxiety, intense anxiety, where I would wake up with it and go to sleep with it. It permeated every aspect of my life, relationships to self-confidence, self-esteem, to work. It was quite intense. And then in and out of, bouts of depression, but just struggling with that at such a high level through life for decades is a tough road. It's a really tough road. So it kind of then, blends into other things like, your confidence and everything else. So that was kind of, that was one of the main things that what started me on this journey, plus just being burnt out with different things in life. And so I wanted to seek something different. And I happened upon this work.
So anxiety for you has been the main struggle throughout your life.
Yeah, I would say throughout my life, yeah. I wasn't the only catalyst that got me into this work here, but it was certainly been a main struggle through
life. What were other catalysts?
Just being stressed out and burned out in life. I, had just kind of struggled for a lot of years and years to make sure I was providing for the family and giving everybody what they needed, and just the pressures of work mixed with that anxiety, mixed with those pressures, I just burned out. I completely burned out. I mean, I was like shutting down. I couldn't get excited about life, so there was depression mixed into it. I think there was like no self-confidence. Started doubting everything about myself, and I gotta say there was no self-love. There really wasn't any self-love. I'd lost that. So it's easy for me to beat myself up and pull myself farther down. So it wasn't others, although I could easily blame others for things as an excuse, but a lot of it was my own mind. Kind of creating this struggle and discontent, loss of purpose, loss of direction. Although what's interesting is I don't think anybody, even closest people to me, knew all of that. I'm really, really, really good at hiding stuff because I've learned to hide anxiety for years. So I was really good at hiding, and so all these internal struggles that I had, they're crushing me inside, but nobody knows that.
You're carrying all of that inside, and you don't tell it to anybody. You're with that by yourself.
Mostly, there was a couple people that knew some things, but nobody really knows what's going on inside your own mind, unless you fully can disclose that. But I think a lot of times, at least for me, the more that things pile on mentally, the more I shut down externally. So then I tend to not share, and it makes it even worse. Because now that stuff that's inside of you is spiraling by itself.
Yeah, it gets, now you're with it even more alone in your own kind of mind prison cell.
Yeah, and you're almost embarrassed by it because you don't want it, like, I don't want people to think I'm crazy. So,
yeah.
You're kind of in your own hell. A lot of dark days, which I've had at various points in my life, but I could never really find a way through it or out of it. It morphed in different ways, I think, through my life.
And it sounds like you got to some point where you realize it's your mind that's the problem. Your mind is causing this suffering.
Yeah, I knew it was my mind. I knew that I had constructed thought patterns, maybe to survive, maybe a survival type of thing. And I knew they were not healthy, and they were doing me a disservice, but a lot of it was all programmed inside of me. So, I kind of had let life program my mind, and the circumstances and my anxiety and other things, program the way I thought. So it was all kind of baked into my subconscious. And I kind of knew that intellectually. I knew that I needed to find something that would reprogram my mind. I'm an IT by trade, so I know a lot about programming. So that's kind of how I thought of it, was, I needed to find a way to reprogram my mind. And I knew that. And the other thing I knew was that I kind of didn't want to go through typical, I don't know if it's Western medicine, but, kind of Western psychology, because I've done some of that. I did do a lot of that in my 30s, that cognitive behavioral therapy, and it was helpful. But it didn't it improved what I was dealing with, but it couldn't solve what I was dealing with. So I needed to find a way to solve what I was dealing with, and that's when I started my journey.
Mm. Yeah, you wanted to solve it, not just improve how you deal with the sudden symptoms of it, but really
Yeah,
resolve it at a deep level.
yeah, because if it's one thing to have like a year of anxiety or 5 years, but like once you have 40 years of it, that's impacting and infiltrating everything about you. You can be
Mm.
like, wow. I mean, I really just got to the point where, all right, I will not live another day like exactly like this. I will find some path. I will
Mm.
find, so it's kind of a bit of a mission. And that's what I started looking,
Mm.
something different. So
That became your mission to get out of, be free of that anxiety, get out
yeah.
of that. Became the most important for you.
Yeah. And I was willing to kind of do anything. I was ready to just go live in a cave somewhere. I mean, I quit my job.
Yeah.
What, and I started shutting everything down because I wanted to find a way out. I couldn't tell what was causing it because everything was causing it. So I couldn't tell what was causing it anymore. Is this now the source of my anxiety? Is that the source of my anxiety? I don't know.
So you quit your job and you went on this soul searching journey to find peace and be free of that anxiety that's been controlling your life for so long, for 40 years. And then you started the self-mastery course later on working with me. Tell me what happened. What changed during that time? What changes did you make?
I gotta say I did follow the self mastery stuff pretty well. As interesting as the way found it is my mind was just going berserk. Like it was all these thoughts that I really couldn't control. And I was like, this is this my ego mind? Is the ego mind causing it? And so that's how I really found Gary's work. And then self mastery. And so I did kind of go through that pretty, religiously, like, um, going through the coursework and retraining my mind and the meditation. And, well, you kind of want to do it perfectly. You never do everything perfectly, but I did repeat everything, and I did listen to everything multiple times each week. And I knew that the stuff in there, I knew that it was going to exactly what I wanted, to reprogram the mind. It was start there. And so what I think that was interesting about that piece is that it started to unprogram what was there. It started to lay the foundation for that, I would say. And so foundationally and then intellectually, I kind of knew, that the way the mind is playing and all these different characters and stories it creates, and it just auto generates all this stuff. It's really the world we live in, but it auto generates all the stuff that's got it built into your subconscious. And so I think that was really good foundational work. I think then that kind of I think I was kind of the end of that, and I started working with you. And well, that work was really good because it was foundational. But working with you has been the thing that I also needed too, because it was very directed to all the different things I was dealing with. And I don't know that I was so sure of wanting to start that work. A little bit of, it's scary. It's you may be pulling apart some dark areas of your psyche that you kind of don't want to go into. But if you really want to heal and move to a different place, you got to go into. And then it's really discipline of, putting the things to practice as much as you can.
And so you mentioned the foundational work was a self-mastery course. What was foundational for you about that? What did you get from the course that helped you?
I think that kind of restructuring this house in your mind, the way it's put in that course, and really building a whole life and psyche on gratitude, kind of letting gratitude be that foundation. And it's so easy for us to look at our lives and say, oh, what do I have to be grateful for? Well, you can have a million things. I've got 3 amazing kids. I've got a wonderful home. Financially stable. I got these things, but in my mind, I didn't. In my mind, I just had misery. So it didn't, all the trappings, so it was like a gratitude, even if you have nothing, if you really, that's one of the things I learned, is like, it's not about like all the things that are wrapped around you or you're surrounding yourself with. It's gratitude for every single little thing in life, like just waking up in the morning and breathing, and having a cup of coffee, or it's that building everything on that gratitude. So I learned that. And I guess I also learned the way the mind was playing in all these different aspects, like the judge, the victim, and all these, the princess and the poor me, and all these different kind of aspects of you that are in you, even anxiety, all these things that are in us. And for me, I wanted them to go away. I wanted that to go away. I want that to go away. And the more I wanted it to go away, the more it gave it energy to rise up. And so I think one of the things I learned was all these things that we kind of either tend to hate about ourselves, or these aspects of ourselves that we, that the anxiety aspect, or that this thing, or, the judging, or whatever the thing is, that they're all there, but they can actually lay completely dormant, each of them, and then rise up only when you need that aspect to serve you in a positive way. So anxiety, it's not a bad thing. Humans need anxiety, but when it becomes the thing that's not dormant, it's like the main thing that's rising up in your life. It can be a character or whatever, or just a feeling or an emotion, but they get kind of out of control and become their own, becomes who you think you are. It becomes your identity. You identify as, I'm anxious. Rob has anxiety, and I didn't want that to be like, I didn't want it to. It's not like Rob, or Rob is anxious. I didn't want it to become an identity. It had, all these things have become identities. And so I guess I learned that these things don't need to be identities, and you don't need to hate them away or wish them away. You just need to learn over time how to bring love and compassion to each of those individual things. So over time, it gets so it isn't you. So I learned a lot of that.
So you learn to kind of disidentify, first of all, learn about the different parts of your mind that cause you suffering, and disidentifying from that and recognizing them, and to not push them away, but to recognize them, have compassion for them, but because you disidentify, you don't let them control your life.
Right.
And then you develop this attitude of gratitude as well towards life, and a new way of experiencing living.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the toughest things for me was there's that image and construct that your mind creates, and I think of it like little mini movie theaters. I think kind of Gary has some aspects of that in his work, but your mind is showing you something. And for me, that I think the hardest part of the work for me was I would see that image, I would feel that emotion, I would sense that thing, and it took me time to pull my belief out of that thing. So if I thought, oh, you suck at that, or you suck at, if my mind was telling me those things, I'm believing that. I was believing it. So now when I believed that, I was identifying as that. And so that was one of the harder thing for me to do, is not believe the things the mind was conjuring. So it would conjure something and I just automatically believed it. I'm like, yeah, that is me. I do that. And once you can eventually step far enough back away from that thing and not believe that that's true, say, you know what, these things, let me assume maybe they aren't true, and work on that. And then when you get to that point, and the thing conjures in your mind, if you don't believe that thing anymore, it has no power over you. It's like it just kind of dissipates. So
That's big. That's really
then it's
important.
less likely when you lose the belief in that thing, it's less likely for your mind to start keep conjuring that thing, because it's like it's kind of not fun for that part of the mind anymore to keep scaring you with that thing. Or
That's big. That's really big, what you said. You take the faith out and you don't believe in what your mind is saying. It doesn't really come back so much after a while.
Yeah.
And then working with me 101, what did you learn from that, from our work together?
I think that the things that propelled me forward, I would say, in very significant ways, was you pushed me to do things that in the real world that I didn't want to do. So I knew I needed to go get another job. I needed to take actions in life to get myself to a better place. But I had built up all this fear and all this worry, and again, not believing in myself, and it wrapped all those things around me. And so while now intellectually and certain I was kind of had this foundation, it was really, I had to put it to work, because we kind of would love, when you're in that mindset, you kind of would love to just sit in a dark room and not have to interact with the world and stay safe. But that's not really why we're here, and that's not really what's going to give us the richest life we could probably have. So you definitely pushed me to get out and do things that I wasn't comfortable doing. Although I did feel empowered. I think I felt empowered enough to try and walk through that thing. And I did fine on each thing. I did fine. And rebuilt all my confidence back up, and rebuilt my sense of self, and rebuilt. And it's been about a year now, I think we've been working together. So that rebuilding and kind of forging back out in life, and starting to kind of build this new way of being. But it's not, it is scary. I mean, you have those moments and you have these fears but you kind of have these new tools too. And so now you with the sword and the shield, and now you have those things to go, get out back in life the way you want to be in life. And I think that's kind of one of the things that this did for me. I think the other pretty significant thing was, in our minds, we are, we're products of everything we've been through. And, I was a master at living in the past and into the future. I was just a master of that. What happened in the past sucked. It damaged me. The future is scary, and things are going to go wrong. And so I had built a world of that. And so, I think, just all of this work has taught me to, like, again, kind of the foundation of gratitude, like, be in the moment and appreciate what's around you, and not let my mind travel wildly into the past and conjure this world that I really didn't want to live in because it was miserable. But the other thing that I was going to say was, all these things, these pockets of things that are in our minds that we believe are our identity and that we struggle with and that keep haunting us. You were able to, one at a time, pick one of those things and just kind of peel it apart and unravel it. And so, while, there are some sessions, I was like, you actually don't want to even go into a session some days, because you're like, you have to do work and peel stuff apart that you don't want to. But the thing is the more you do that, the more you kind of unlock these, things that are kind of wrapped up in your thoughts and your history and your emotion. And, the more you do that, the more you kind of evolve to get to a better place. And so I think that, while, you can kind of do that to your own self to a degree, having somebody outside of you that's driving you into the discovery of that thing and the peeling apart of that thing, I think is really helpful, because it's tough to do for yourself unless you're very adept at it.
So it sounds like what kind of our one-on-one work helped you kind of implement what you knew in a more deeper way, both in creating the life you want as in a job, and facing those fears that come up, and maybe it pushed you a little bit to have the courage to create that life. And even though it feels scary, and often we find out, as you did, like, it's not as scary as it seemed. It's not so scary, actually. It's freeing on the other side. And then you also got to kind of live more in the present moment instead of the future or past, constantly dwelling about the past, worrying about the future, to be more here and enjoying life where everything happens. And and get that help to, self-mastery course kind of helps you inventory those beliefs. And because it's a course, it's done in a general way of how beliefs work, but to get that personalized support to help with the beliefs in your mind, and to tackle them one by one, and let them go, and face those fears and those dark parts of our ego mind, and bring the light in of our awareness, bring the love in, and let them heal and release them so they don't control our lives as much. And that's uncomfortable, right? Could be, but then it's freeing, and that's how we face them. And actually, you get to a point, and you'll get to that, where it's exciting. It's not you're like, I can't wait to get uncomfortable here and get into the messy bits and let those go. It gets exciting because you know what's on the other side, what's waiting for you.
Yeah, and I think the other part is, rather than living in this space of kind of fear and dread and anxiety and all that. I mean, I can even, like today, it's Sunday. Uh, yeah, I don't have anxiety today. I would have had anxiety every day, right? So there wasn't a day without it. It didn't matter if it was a weekend or it didn't, and you're turning to things like alcohol and other things to try to deal with it. But I was like, I don't think there's enough drugs or alcohol or anything I could take that would really do what you can do when you have a clear, quiet, peaceful mind. It's like those things can, suppress it and make you forget, but they can't bring you like to a place where you really want to, just kind of happiness or quiet place that you're trying to get to. So, I think the other thing is I, feel like I can, I think we use that term dream a lot, but like dream of, okay, like where do I take my life now that I've stopped like feeling like every day is a complete struggle and not wanting to get out of bed. I mean, I was there. I didn't want to get out of bed. Um, I would just dread waking up in the morning because I just didn't want to face every day. And so now it's like, okay, kind of find the day and start to dream a little bit of what, um, what you can do with your life and connect with others. And so, yeah, it's been really good work from all that perspective.
Mm. That's so wonderful, so touching to hear. You said like, hey, I'm waking up, it's a Sunday. I used to have anxiety at those times, and I don't have it. That's where we really do the work, don't we? Is that, yeah, we experience that peace and the state of mind we want to have. How's that like for you to reflect on that?
It's great. I mean, when you can almost start to forget what you were like, and I think I'm kind of getting there. Like it's getting hard to even remember how I was, and I
Mm.
knew it was not good. I knew it was a really bad
So
place.
let me ask you, if you the beginning of our call, you mentioned how you were with anxiety and the kind of dark parts of the mind and fears and self-judgments. And so if you just reflect on that, look at that, and then look at where you are now, a year and so later. And what changed? What do you see happen?
Um, yeah, definitely have tools, right? You have the tools you can to pull yourself out of places, right? It's a process. So I don't, it's not like you wake up and you're like, oh my God, every day is amazing. And there are people that are like that. I'm like, how are you? How are you like that?
So it's a
Uh,
process of getting there.
so it's a
Yeah.
process, and so you still have your dark days or moments or whatever, but it doesn't like you're not in a soup of it every day. So as you go, you have more and more days or moments, right, that are good, that you're like, oh, okay, this is how I want to be, this is how I want to feel. And you'll still have those moments. The mind, likes to stay in its patterns, and there's those aspects of your mind that, why our minds are like that, I don't know, but they try to protect us in some way, but they do it, and they do it at a disservice. But I yeah, generally, kind of feel good, positive. I think, yeah, there's these tools that now you can recognize, like when something is happening in your mind, or it's showing you something or conjuring something. um you don't, oh, I don't need to react to that, or I don't need to engage into that, or I don't need to give that thing energy. So you kind of get to a place where these things, the things that your mind will create, it's creating it's quiet. The mind is getting much quieter over time. So the mind is getting quieter. You're living more in the present moment. These things that you're trying to solve for are dissipating over time. That's kind of what I see and feel and sense.
Mm.
And I think what's important, even a year in now, is like I can't expect like every single day I'm going to wake and be like, oh, this is I have to realize it's a process. You move through it. You retrain. The mind is so you've had a habit for 40 years. Well, you're not going to undo that habit in 6 months, but you kind of keep working to undo these habits. And again, it's like almost like training a dog. You're just repetitive. You redirect the mind, and you find that over time, when you do look back, you're like, oh, this is different. This is better.
Yeah, and then it's kind of hard to imagine where you were, because you even feel different, and sometimes it could be the same thought patterns, but the feeling is different. It's not as dark and heavy as it used to be.
Yeah, or not to, an emotion comes up and you don't react, because before an emotion would come up, well, my mind would try to solve, oh, where's that coming from? And then it would, between the mind and the emotion and the body, would spiral that, feed off each other. So it's those kinds of loops of things you would get into, that I would get into, that don't really happen anymore. So even if an emotion comes up, I don't have to, oh, what's causing that, and find a reason. I don't have to go through the spinning of thought, emotion, body sensations, negative body sensations, and just kind of all that, let because before all that was kind of on its own chaotic course. Like it created itself and I just went along with it all. And so now I'm like, no.
Not to get into that.
We're not going to go down that path. I
Yeah.
had a little anxious moment. That's fine. Done. Move on.
So even if the mind does create those patterns, you step out of it.
Yeah.
And you don't it's kind of like a snowball. You don't let the snowball gather that sort of momentum.
You can recognize it, whether it's a thought, whether it's an emotion, whether it's a body sensation. You're like, okay, you see it, you recognize it, you bring love to it, compassion to it, understanding to it. You don't wish it away, you don't hate it. You be with it, and you don't let the other aspects of your mind, emotion, or body tap into it and run with it like you used to do. That's kind of what I'm finding in this work.
Wonderful. Yeah, really wonderful. And the thing is, the more you go, you gather more personal power, the more changes you make. So you then even make even bigger changes. So every year you get happier and happier. And the growth rate of your happiness is exponential, because the more you release some of these beliefs and stories and emotions, then you have more power inside. And what do you do with that power? You can use it to create more love, more gratitude, more joy, and to release other beliefs. So it's an exponential rate. That's the gift of it. So you're only getting started, and you have so much more happiness to go. There's even much more happiness available. Isn't that great?
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's a year. I've been doing this a year, and the way we all live today, we want the pill or the whatever the thing it is to like make it all just go away. And even when you start this kind of work, you want it to go away the first second you're in or whatever. But yeah, it's this path, it's this journey. You do need to look back. I think you do need to look back because you're like, okay, I am so much farther up the hill than I was then. And I think it's, you are moving a little up a hill because this is work. You have to put in the work, the mind work you have to commit to making yourself better. But it's not, it's all worth it. And it's, it's worth it and you're worth it, I think is how I think of it.
I love that. It's worth it and you're worth it. Yeah, because it's really a gift for you that you give yourself.
Yeah, and like I was telling you, like one of the things that I struggle with was self-love. Like I think I probably hated myself. And so I did have to learn that. I had to learn like I really have to love who I am and everything about me and all these, things that I struggle with. Rather than hating them all, I kind of have to love them all. And when you do that, you can then really, now you can reach out to other people. You can engage just differently with other people in life and other things in life. And but you gotta just, you think it's simple and you think, oh, everybody loves themselves. Well, we get to these places where we start to hate things about ourselves. And then you don't, it's a tough place to be. Right. When you start to hate things about you, you can't, you gotta move it. You gotta find ways out of that. You gotta find this, it can be easy for us to unconditionally love somebody else. And then we kind of have our own self-hatred. That's what I was finding. I'm like, wait, why do I have unconditional love for other people? I'm like hating myself or parts of me. Where's the unconditional love for myself? That was a bit of an eye-opener for me.
That's such, I'm so happy you get to love yourself that way, in this new unconditional way. What a gift that you give yourself, and then you can give anybody and everybody, and anybody who watches this, what a gift, because they could learn, oh, I could do that for me too. I could love me too in that way. That's such a gift. That's such a gift to love yourself in that way. I'm so happy for you that you have that, and then you get to cultivate that more and more, deepen that.
Yeah, and you cultivate it. I think that's kind of this process. You then, whatever you're learning, you then cultivate it. And I don't think you're ever there, like, oh, I'm trying to get there. If this, again, that's going into the future of if this occurs, I'm happy. It's like, no, you're just happy in the present moment. You have to find that happiness, find the contentment, find the beauty and the love, and then you just continue to evolve, you continue to grow, you continue to expand. I think you're never there. So I think we hear that from other things, but that's kind of, it's very true.
Like a garden, right? You grow your garden, you still need to take care of your garden. And so that's, you build this new state of being and mind of love and gratitude, and then and living in the moment, and you cultivate it, and it strengthens over time. You cultivate those seeds.
Yeah, I think I might have told you I had an aunt that she's very into like spirituality and homeopathic things and energy work. And I remember one time she's like struggling with something, and she's like, yeah, I've got to work on that. And I'm like, wait, she has to work on she's already there, and what I learned from that was, okay, nobody's really ever there. Even the people you think are like, oh my God, they've got it, it's even if, you're still working, you're still evolving.
Yeah, there's a development that goes on. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Rob, thank you so much for everything that you shared. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that you'd like to share or add?
I think the only thing I want to say is thank you for kind of the way you approach this work, the way you guide, um, the way you are able to kind of peel things apart for folks, including myself. And just it's just the manner in which you do it. It doesn't feel clinical, or it's like that's what I didn't want, right? I wanted something that felt more organic, and so that's a little bit, I think, what drove me to find work like this. So I appreciate you and what you've done for me.
No, thank you. That's so well received. Thank you, and what a pleasure. And I appreciate you so much. It's the most meaningful thing I can do with my life and time is to support a soul, a human being on the journey to peace and happiness. So thank you for giving me that gift. There's always a giving and receiving. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'll see you when I see you. Thank you.
All right. Have
Thank
a good
you,
day.
everybody.
All right.